Time for our book reading. Time for the book reading. We have today The Dow Jones Averages by Bennett W. Goodspeed. Mixes humor, common sense, psychology, and Taoist philosophy and practical suggestions for applying bicameral thinking and Taoist principles to stock market investment considerations. This is a first edition, 1983, E.P. Dutton published, and we're going to read pages 16 and 19, just some gematria. Reading helps person pick stocks. 331 English ordinal, 133 reduction. And from what I read thus far from those pages, because I just wanted to read what I was going to read on the stream, I like it. I think it's actually a pretty good book, and I'm probably going to have to read it at some point. It's a different type of perspective. All right, so we're going to read page 16 and 19. 16 right here. But what, after all, is Taoism? What is it about the ancient philosophy that has influenced so many, including this author? What is it about Lao Tzu, a simple man of few words that has caught the imaginations of generations of people around the world? His philosophy is simple, but not easy. His main principles, for instance, fall under such improbable headings as Wu Wei, the law of reverse effort, the newborn child, catching running water in a bucket, Fu, the uncarved block, Te, being with Tao, and Judo, the gentle way of martial arts. The Tao means the way, the underlying nature of the universe. It is as if there were a central axis around which everything revolves in an interrelated way. Though this concept could provide a rationale for astronomy, Lao Tzu was not interested in observing planetary activities, but rather those of nature and inner man. For Lao Tzu, without going beyond one's nature, one can achieve ultimate wisdom. To achieve wisdom and power, you merely need to understand the 5 simple workings of nature that reflect universal principles. Then learn to cooperate with events rather than fight them. Though Lao Tzu believes in the interconnectedness of all things, he does not advocate predestination, but says rather that one who possesses Te, the power of being in tune with Tao, can Sao. Hopefully I'm saying this right. If I'm saying it wrong, let me know. By understanding the nature of inner man, the Taoist can turn human forces to his own advantage. Successful living, like surfing, is the art of picking the right wave to ride. So successful living, like surfing, is the art of picking the right wave to ride. In Taoism, opposites are in harmony, not in rebellion. With the fundamental laws of the universe, it is therefore not appropriate to debate their differences. Yin and yang, long and short, life and death are fused into one, as each depends on its counterpart for full completion. In fact, each can be seen only in terms of its relevance to its counterpart. By not favoring one side or the other, the Taoist is able to appreciate the virtues of both. Man's artificial rules of good and evil, right and wrong, do not necessarily fit the Tao, the way of the universe. Another central principle of Taoism is called the uncarved block, P apostrophe U. I'm going to say P, which is the natural, unspoiled, simple, and honest quality of both man and nature. The uncarved block is man's original nature, free from hostility and aggression. The nearest human thing representing the uncarved blocks is the newborn child. The sage sees and hears no more than an infant sees and hears, Lao Tzu states. That's actually pretty solid. That's good. The sage sees and hears no more than an infant sees and hears. To utilize the power of the uncarved block, one has to return to childlike ways by unlearning the rules of man and society, and thus be free to allow the unconscious mind to work effectively. We should learn to appreciate the uncarved block, the inner virtue in all things, such as awareness will result in our not trying to make something or someone be different from its true nature, e.g., by not putting square pegs into a round hole. Thus, one should accept what is weak for what strength it has and use what is dim for the light it gives. The sage does not desire to change others. Lao Tzu, perhaps in part, has a rebuff to many followers of Confucius, was an outright ridiculer of scholars, who he felt devised rules that conflicted with the basic laws of nature and thus interfered with our ability to be in touch with our consciousness, our uncarved block. Scholars' conscious mind, he felt, acquired knowledge for the sake of knowledge and erected word barriers between themselves and common people in order to appear superior. Lao Tzu felt the reality should not be theorized about, but directly perceived through intuitive and experiential understanding, which is opposite of what the West usually does. These are more East principles. Lao Tzu suggests observation to understand the laws of nature and the universe. But what about understanding the laws of man, which he admits tends to be artificial? In dealing with one's fellow man, Lao Tzu suggests employing the principles of water. Of all substances, nothing is weaker than water, yet for attacking what is hard and tough, nothing surpasses it. Water seeks the lowest place and thus is humble and receptive, like the female yin. Water adapts to the shape of the container in which it is placed and is therefore flexible. Like the universe itself, water is in constant motion. In dealing with one's fellow man, Lao Tzu recommends that one be humble, flexible, adaptable, and accepting of change as a way of life. The principle Lao Tzu calls Wu Wei, which literally means not doing, is a doctrine of inaction, sometimes called the law of reverse effort. Wu Wei does not mean total passivity, but rather the avoidance of forcing of hostile or aggressive acts. Wu Wei means rolling with the punches, swimming with the current, and winning by attraction and attitude rather by deed and compulsion. Examples of the law of reverse effort are many. For instance, when you try to float, you sink. When you try to sink, you float. When you try to remember a name, you can't. When you stop thinking about it, it appears forthwith. When you hold your breath, you lose it. But when you let it go, you regain it. Wu Wei means succeeding by attitude rather than action. It is having the power of the infectious wish that comes from certain virtues such as compassion, moderation, and humility. In applying the principle of Wu Wei to the affairs of men, Lao Tzu made reference to government and teaching. In government, one should govern a large country as you should cook a small fish, lightly. Lao Tzu would not recommend, as did Confucius, that copious rules be imposed upon people, for more laws are enacted and taxes assessed, the greater the number of lawbreakers and tax evaders. The sage does not teach by telling others what to do, he leads by example. Education should be forced primarily on recapturing facilities that have been allowed to go astray in the stress of life. When it comes to the stock market, after all this, we finally get to the stock market, but this is important that you guys understand this and that you guys go through this, all right? It was important to get to this part in this reading. We finally get to the stock market portion. When it comes to the stock market, Taoism can be used to justify many different methodologies. For instance, the technician would encourage one to go with the flow of what others are buying and selling. The fundamentalist would say that successful investing depends upon knowing the way of the economy, industries, and companies. Finally, the contrarian would advise generosity, like the sage who prefers being the creditor, by giving others the stocks they want by buying those that they don't. Perhaps this book will help you decide which Tao principles will work for you. And I want to reread that last paragraph because there was a lot before that that is important when it comes to stocks, but it condenses at the end. So one more time, one more read. When it comes to the stock market, Taoism can be used to justify many different methodologies. For instance, the technician would encourage one to go with the flow of what others are buying and selling. Uh, Technical trader. The fundamental analysis, the fundamentalist would say the successful investing depends upon knowing the way of the economy, industries, and companies, knowing the way. Finally, the contrarian would advise generosity, like the sage who prefers being the creditor, being by giving others the stocks they want by buying those that they don't, and buying those that they don't. Perhaps this book will help you decide which Tao principles will work for you. And I think I'm all of those at different points, but I definitely lean towards the fundamentalist and contrarian. I'm a fundamental contrarian. I do use technical analysis sometimes when I do want to get into my long-term plays in and out. Obviously, I want a good price, so you do have to look at charts. But for the most part, when people aren't buying, I'm buying, and when people are selling, I'm buying. No, so when people are buying, I'm selling, and when people aren't buying, I'm so when people are buying the stock, I'm selling to them, and when people are selling the stock, I'm buying what they want to sell. You know, right? I'm more or less a contrarian based off fundamental views, and sometimes get into stocks via technical trades. So that's the book, The Dow Jones Averages, Guide to Whole Brain Investing. Brent W. Godspeed. This is first edition, 1983. Not a whole lot out there. This is rare. But if you like this book, go check it out. Go see if you can buy it, and go from there. This is very interesting.